everyone. So the topic that we'll be studying today is cells. So it is the first topic in biology O levels and it's a very basic topic. So let's start. The first question when a person hears the word cells is that what basically are cells? So cells are the basic building block of life, and every living organism that exists on this planet is made up of cells. And cells cannot be seen with the naked eye. We cannot see cells with our naked eyes, so we have to take the help of light microscope or electron microscope to see these things. And the cells are composed of protoplasm, which are commonly organelles of the cells. So let's move on to cell organelles. That what actually are cell organelles? So the first cell organelle we have here is cell membrane. Cell membrane is a partially permeable membrane, which means that it will allow only certain substances to enter or leave the cell. So basically the cell membrane controls the movement of substances across a cell, the entry and exit of substances in the cell. The cell wall is made up of lipids and proteins, and the cell wall also helps to contain the cytoplasm inside the cell and also surrounds the cell. Now let's move to cytoplasm. Uh, Cytoplasm is not much of a thing. Cytoplasm covers most of the cell as it is a liquid present in the cell, and all the parts of the all the cell organelles are present inside the cytoplasm. The next cell organelle is cell wall. Cell wall is only present in plant cells. It is made from a substance called cellulose, which is basically a sugar uh, or a carbohydrate, you can say. The cell wall surrounds the cell. It also protects the cell from any kind of mechanical damage, and it also gives the cell a fixed shape. If you have observed a plant cell, it has a fixed shape. The fixed shape is due to the cell wall present. In an animal cell, there is no cell wall present, so the animal cell has a irregular shape, and no, it does not have any kind of protection against mechanical injuries. The next and the most important cell organelle is the nucleus. So the nucleus contains a denser kind of protoplasm, which is also known as nucleoplasm. Nucleus basically is the brain of the cell, we can say. Nucleus controls all the movement in the cell, all the activities happening in the cells, the cell division, cell elongation, any kind of activities happening in the cell is controlled by the nucleus. So the nucleus is, as you can see, it is essential for cell division, as cells without nucleus cannot divide. It controls. If you have seen that red blood cells do not contain a nucleus. That's why they have a biconcave disc-like shape, which we will study further on. So red blood cells cannot divide themselves as they have no nucleus. The nucleus, the thing that helps to divide the cells inside the nucleus, is called chromatin. The chromatin denses up to become chromosomes. When the chromatin is the mass of the thread-like structure found within the nucleus. Those thread-like structure, chromatin, is basically made up of protein and a compound called deoxyribonucleic acid, more commonly known as DNA. During cell division, these chromatin threads divide and become condensed thread-like structures called chromosomes. If you observe the nucleus before cell division, we will also study that further on in our syllabus. Before cell division, there are two strands present inside the nucleus which are visible. Those strands are denser form of chromatin. Those strands are commonly known as chromosomes. Those strands divide to form two new daughter cells. We will study that further on. The next cell organelle is rough endoplasmic reticulum, also known as RER. This is a network of membrane to which the ribosomes are attached. So, due to the attachment of ribosomes to this membrane, it has a rough surface, and it is very small, so it can be viewed with an electron microscope. The next cell organelle is smooth endoplasmic reticulum. It is the same as rough endoplasmic reticulum, but only the difference is that it does not have ribosomes attached to its membrane, so that's why it's smooth. The second difference is that it carries out the process of detoxification, which means it breaks down toxic substances into harmless materials to be excreted from the body. As here also synthesizes substances such as fats and sexual hormones. It breaks down fats into Basically it produces enzymes which breaks fats into simpler substances and sexual hormones through the process of meiosis, which we will study further on. The next cell organelle is Golgi apparatus. The Golgi apparatus, also known as the Golgi body, and it is present inside the cell and it looks like a disc. It chemically modifies substances made by the ER and store packages these substances into the vesicles to be transported out of the cell. So the basic function of Golgi is that it packs substances that are to be transported out of the cell into vesicles so they can be easily transported. The next organelle is mitochondria. Mitochondria are the small sausage-shaped organelles, which are also known as a powerhouse of the cell. It is because aerobic respiration occurs inside the mitochondria, and an organism gains its energy through aerobic respiration. So the energy inside the cell is produced through the mitochondria. So we also call it the powerhouse of the cell. Uh, the energy given off by the mitochondria is used by the cell for cell activities to take place like cell division or cell elongation, cell or reproduction. Any cell activities requires energy which is provided by the mitochondria. The next cell organelle is chloroplast. Chloroplast is an oval structure which is only present in plant cells. These are not present in animal cells because plants need to make their own food through sunlight. Chloroplast contains green pigment called chlorophyll, which helps to trap sunlight and convert it into food for the plant. We'll study that in detail further on in the syllabus. The next organelle is the vacuole. Vacuole is a fluid-filled space enclosed by the membrane. So, vacuole contains a substance called cell sap. In animal cells, there are temporary and small sap vacuoles which are destroyed after a small period of time. But in plant cell, there is a large and permanent sap vacuole which contains a substance known as cell sap. Cell sap is made from sugar and iron solutions. So let's move on to the differences between plant cell and animal cell. There are three common differences in our syllabus between animal and plant cells. So plant cells have cell walls while animal cells does not. Thus, focus on this point is very important. Some students make the mistake of writing these. The first point is 2 points that they will write the first difference that plant cells have cell walls while animal cells does not. This would be their first difference. The second difference would be plant cells have a regular shape while animal cells does not have a regular shape. But the examiner marks them as the same point and you will only attain 1 mark for this or half number of marks for this point if we wrote 2 points because both are the same. The second difference is plant cells contain chloroplast while animal cells do not contain chloroplast, which could also be written as plant cells can make their own food while animal cells cannot. The third difference is plant cells have a large central and permanent vacuole that contains cells, but animal cells have small and temporary vacuoles. Now let's understand how the cells in a multicellular organism work. Multicellular organism is an organism which is made of more than one cell. Unicellular organism is made from one cell which has some kind of bacteria or algae, but multicellular organisms are animals, humans, insects, which are multicellular. So many cells in a multicellular organism will combine together to form a simple tissue. Then more than one type of cell present inside the organism will combine to form a complex tissue. And different kinds of tissue combine together and work in a specific order to combine to form an organ. So in an organ there are multiple tissues connected together and they work in a chronological order uh, to perform their function. Then an organ system is made. So several different kinds of organ combine to achieve a common target, which is like it could be removing waste material from our body. So that work is assigned to the excretory system, and the transport of signals to the brain and back to the effector is done by the nervous system. So there are different kinds of organ systems present inside a body, inside the organism. So in an organ system, many organs combine together to achieve a common target. Several types of system make an organism. Let's move on. Now the next topic is specialized cells. There are only three kinds of specialized cells involved in our syllabus, which is the root hair cell, the red blood cell, and the xylem vessels. So first comes the root hair cell. The root hair cells are found behind the growing tips of the root, where most of the soil water is absorbed. So the basic function of root hair cell is to absorb water from the soil, and they are found on the back side of the growing tips of the root. It is because the root grows between the soil molecules, where most of the water is present. So they grow in the most where water is mostly present in that area to absorb water. So it grows between the soil particles around the root. Its long, thin shape gives it a high surface area to volume ratio. So as you can see over here, the shape of the root hair cell is very thin and it's a long shape, due to which it attains a higher surface area to volume ratio. You can see it. It is a long. It has a long and thin shape, due to which it has a large surface area. As the volume is reduced, you can see there is lesser space of water to be absorbed. So the root hair cell absorbs water through the process of osmosis. We will understand osmosis in the next chapter. So through osmosis, the water moves inside the root hair cell and it moves forward into each step by step into every cell through osmosis until it reaches the xylem vessel, which obviously takes it towards the leaf for photosynthesis. The next specialized cell in our syllabus is xylem vessels. So these vessels, it is an important part of our syllabus as the question related to xylem vessels come most often. So xylem vessels are dead hollow cells that transport water and minerals from the roots to the leaf. So these xylem vessels develop from the living cells in the cellulose cell wall, the cytoplasm. So they elongate. When they elongate and and are mature enough, their walls are impregnated by a thick woody material called lignin. After lignification makes this vessel very strong to carry the water up through the plant without collapsing. But after lignification, the xylem cells die and form a very hard vessel which cannot easily collapse and helps the plant to get water from the roots to the leaves for photosynthesis. Roots and water and mineral ions. The xylem vessels also support the stem and the leaves of the plant. It doesn't allow plant to fall down or bend easily. The last specialized cell in our syllabus is red blood cells. The function of red blood cell is to carry oxygen around the body. The red blood cells develop inside the bone marrow. The red blood cell mature. As the red blood cell matures, it loses its nucleus, due to which it attains a biconcave disc-like shape. But the advantage of losing the nucleus is that the surface area of the red blood cells increases, due to which more hemoglobin is packed inside the red blood cell. Hemoglobin is a red pigment that is present inside the red blood cells. It is not of exactly a red color, but it's a pigment present inside the red blood cells. Hemoglobin combines readily with oxygen uh, to form oxyhemoglobin. So when red blood cells travel through the lungs, the oxygen attaches to the hemoglobin and travels along in the inside the red blood cells to the parts of the body. The and the large surface area also allows the rate of rate ratio for exchange of oxygen across cell membrane. The, the red blood cells are also flexible, so they can pass through narrow blood capillaries easily without getting stuck. So this this chapter cells has ended, and we'll meet again in the next chapter, which is transport through the cells.